These are all the bits that SWM changed from the original TE630. Countershafts, instead of 12 splines, it now has 14. The sprocket, countershaft sprocket, is different to the TE630. Anything that splines onto this shaft is different. Now, as well as that, they have reduced the diameter of the internal part of the shaft. 25mm here, it's 24.5mm there. Doesn't stop you sticking this gear on the sprocket side. So somehow they've just taken the tops off the splines. Problem for me when I bought a TE630 set of gears was these two freewheeling gears had 1/2 mil of clearance. You can't bush that. They're sliding on the ends of splines, so it just isn't going to work. And same story for the front. There's first, second and third sit there, no change, but this splined 5th and 6th, that has 14 teeth. The same story, reduced down to 24.5mm. Wonder if that goes on. Yep. So I don't know why they turned down that extra material. But there you go. And along with that, the bush that goes under this gear has to be 24.5. Watch this, the SWM part number and the Husqvarna part number are the same. And every splined thrust washer that goes in between these things, SWM has 14 teeth, Husqvarna has 12. Now why am I doing this? Here it is. This is 4th, 5th and 6th. Now in my hand both of those gears have 20 teeth. One's slightly bigger pitch than the other, and you get a very, very small change from 4th to 5th to 6th. So first, second, third, fourth, all the same. These cogs had to have 14 teeth splines, so they have different part numbers. I had to buy all of this to do my gearbox job. Husqvarna originally built the TE630 and then they built the SM630 for motard, which is track racing. So the best thing for track racing is close gears. You're not worried about first, it's just there to get you rolling while you scream around 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. That's why they built the gearbox. Somehow SWM have adopted that as their gear set. The trouble is, you have not as much span or range, whatever you call it, from 1st to 6th. It's only worth about a 5-speed instead of a 6-speed. Here's my final gear set to go back in. It's all the parts that make up a TE630. For comparison, there's 4th, 5th and 6th. At least you might be able to appreciate there's a difference, a significant difference between 5th and 6th. Same on this side. The 6th gear is quite a bit bigger. That's the full set of gears now. One of the worries, this gear is so big that it may hit the case, but the cases have got the original machining in them, so that clears the case. It's very compact engines, very well built. Undercut gears. This dog looks a bit thin there, but it's not so thin when you look that way. The surfaces have ramps. Once they begin to engage, their tendency is to pull in, so they won't spit out once they catch. I've ever ridden one of these, but they never ever spit out of gear. And the only trade-off is they don't go into neutral very easily. You're better off pulling it into neutral before you stop, because if the clutch drags at all, it won't want to lift out of first gear. Now, I'm not trying to gear my bike up, I'm trying to gear my bike down. So along with all that, I've had to buy a bigger back sprocket. I was after a 48, that would have given me the same gearing, but they're out of 48, so I got a 47. That might just split the difference a little. It'll be a fraction taller in 6th, and well, it'll go like 1547 instead of 1542 in 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. So I needed a sprocket that fits a TE630 and a new chain. Here's where they've notched out the casing for the original TE. There's nothing in it. It's a pretty thin web, but it's already machined for it. The other question, the RS650R, they say it has a different gear ratio to the SM630. I'm going to call BS on that. I've had a couple of guys that got them to record their RPM at 5th and then change into 6 at the same speed and record their RPM, and the figures they're telling me show me that they have the SM gearbox, and I can't find a part number for those. There's only 3 components I thought I'd need. the 5th, 6th front drive gear and the individual 5th and 6th driven gears. That's what I started with till I got the thing apart and had that sinking feeling when I realised, oh no, this ain't going to work. I threw the bike back together. I've been riding it around for about 10 months waiting while I lick my wounds and regroup. If anybody knows a different story from SWM where they provide these parts, 14 tooth splines with SWM part numbers, well, you could save yourself a bit of cost, but I'm still going to proceed down this path because I've bought all this. Here's the gearbox together. It all fits. It all engages nicely. It's got the selectors in. Runs free enough. All the gears mesh nicely. I think it's a goer this time. I'm happy to report that I think it'll work. Just a piece of trivia while we got the lid off. Counter-rotating balancer. I've put the balancer which is there and there. The piston's at the bottom, the counterbalancer's at the top. The piston's at the top, the counterbalancer's at the bottom. So why don't they just all do this on one shaft? Well, that's great because it counterbalances at the top, it counterbalances at the bottom. But when you're halfway up and halfway down, if all the weight was on the crank, it'd be pushing backwards, and then halfway around it'd be pushing forwards. So they've shared the weight halfway between this and this so that they work against each other halfway up. So the counterweight on the crank is at the front, the counterweight on the balancer is at the back, and so that thing just gives the only way you can balance a single cylinder engine. Well, I got my gearbox together. The hard way, you don't assemble it horizontally, you lay it on its side, but I got gears, first, neutral, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. There we go. No friction, I've got a clutch on it. So when I do that, that's going to go an awful lot faster than it used to. 14% I figure. So that's nearly a gear. It's about the gap between the old 4th and 5th.